Remember, tomorrow on the show, we are going to do what was brought up last week by Ray in Maryland. We are going to spotlight new bands and new artists. And that is something that I think is very important. It's so hard for people to find new things today, know about new things, the glut of stuff out there. So you'll have a chance to shine a spotlight on a new band that you really like or a new artist you really like, and maybe let others know and give others a chance to discover them. Because I always say it, the good thing about the world we're in now is that if you hear about a band in 5 seconds or less, you can listen to them or potentially watch them because everything's at your fingertips on your phone. But the bad news is, same deal. There's so much out there. Where do I find it? What is it? Is it good? What's good? What isn't good? So a little bit of a direction for you. Maybe you want to have a notepad handy for tomorrow's show. And as people shout out some bands, you might want to jot them down. And then in seconds, you can go listen to them and see if it's for you or not. So that should be good. That'll be a good exercise. It'll be a good thing to do. It's good for rock. It's good for the show. And I was thinking about this the other day when I was kind of refining this in my head after it was brought up last week. I think the ground rules, the only ground rule we should have tomorrow. Now, I know Ray was saying everybody should just give one band. This way you get as many people in and as many bands as possible. I'm okay with that. But look, if somebody hits me with 2 bands or something they're passionate about, the more the merrier. It's okay. Well, I'll do my best to move it along, and Joel maybe can source some clips from some of these bands as they come up. Maybe we'll work those in. But the one ground rule I think we should have for tomorrow is that the band that you bring up has to be 10 years old or less. Because to a lot of people, new bands mean different things. To some people, a new band is like been around 20 years. To some people, a new band is like a band that literally just released their first record. So, I think to me, 10 years, even though it's a long period of time, still feels kind of newish. Joel, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think 10 is a good cap? I mean, 5 is going to be maybe a little too limiting.
I was actually thinking of a wider range, but that's only because, our audience is so deep into, much older rock that my initial thought was anything whose first album was released after the year 2000 or 2005. But that also just it reminds me how old I am, and that's already 25 years ago.
25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not new at all. But for a lot of us and, for a lot of the audience, the last 20 years or so will be new music to them based on, who they listen to regularly.
Yeah, I like 10. I just feel like 20 is too long. I mean,
I agree. 20 is too long, but that was just my first thought.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I mean, if there's a band out there for 20 years that's been making music, and I mean, you don't know about them, then I mean, look, again, people, UFO's been around 55 years. And every day I hear from people saying to me, hey, thank you for turning me on to them. That's kind of like a different conversation. When you get into a long period of time, I think when you get to 20 years or longer, then you almost kind of morph into bands that should have been huge because it's, it's a different thing. So I like 10. I like first album had to come out 2015. Yeah, I'll let you slide if it's 2014 or something like that. But I would say, 10 years, roughly a band that came out in the last 10 years. Let's leave it at that. Like I said, tomorrow, your favorite new bands. We just gave you little ground rules. It's got to be within the band's first album had to come out within the last 10 years. That's where that's what the ground rules are for tomorrow for the new band show. This way we're really dealing with newer, emerging bands. Even though 10 years is even a long time, but still, for our purposes, I think that works. That's a good time frame. So think about that. We're going to take your calls on that. Of course, as usual, starting at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific tomorrow for Trunk Nation. And tomorrow, spotlighting new bands that have come out in the last 10 years. Give me one that you feel most strongly about, that the world should know about, and we'll at least, can't promise you we'll let the world know about it through this show, but we'll certainly let our listeners across the country and into Canada, of course, what you think is the band that would be best to let others know about, that is an emerging newer band. Again, we're putting a loose blanket of 10 years. So basically 2015 forward would have to be the time they first got active and started releasing records. Nothing earlier than, say, 15, because, again, then they've been around for a little bit and what have you. So try to keep it to newer stuff, at least in terms of first album coming out within the last 10 years, and that's kind of a good criteria, I think, to work on tomorrow's show. So that's what we're doing tomorrow. And looking forward to hearing from you and digging into that. And like I said, the artist we just hung up with, Dorothy, I think fits under that window. Even though 14, I think, was when she first released music, I'd let that slide. I'm not going to be super strict about it, but you get what I'm talking about. It's a good way to shine a spotlight on some of this stuff, which in a lot of ways needs it. An artist like Dorothy, she's on her way. She's doing well. She's touring. She's pulling people. She's got management. She's got a label. But still, I mean, it doesn't matter. If that would have been your call tomorrow, that would have been totally fine as well, because I know there's people that just heard about her for the first time seconds ago during that interview.